challenging spectator, the parents. The demands officials are on. Sport really want officials who possess not just technical knowledge, but also emotional intelligence, communication skills, stress management techniques. So if we can support the development of these broader competencies, officials can make better decisions, smarter decisions under pressure and maintain their well-being and longevity in the profession. And one of our biggest supporters is a lady by the name of Donna Kelso. She works for the WTA. I think Donna has officiated more than 110 Grand Slams, and she's like my long-lost auntie. I just love her, and we really bounce some ideas off each other in regards to developing females in the officiating industry. So not just in tennis, but across all industries. And how can we really support the females within our sport? The officiating industry itself is so different to the coaching and the athletic industry, where if you come up with a new innovation in coaching, it's kind of like, oh, it's mine. No one's getting it. I'm not sharing it. Where officials and people in the world of officiating kind of wrap their arms around each other and go, oh yeah, this is what we did and this is how we did it. What do you want to know? Oh, here's a fact sheet. Here's a template. Off you go. So we're not really competing.
And now, Season 2, Episode 11, Letter I, Innovation. Join hosts Dana Pappas and Nate Acosta with special guest Ash Synnott on the From A to Zebra podcast.
Welcome back to the From A to Zebra podcast. I'm Dana Pappas here with my co-host, Nate Acosta. We love having guests on the show who are bringing new ideas and concepts to the officiating industry, and today's guest is certainly one of those people.
On this episode, we are talking about the letter I and innovation in officiating. And our guest is part of a group of innovators in the officiating industry. While innovation is an exciting topic by itself, it's even more exciting that today's guest is our very first from Australia.
Which is awesome. Our guest today is Ash Synnott. He is the managing director of Officiating Collective. He has more than 25 years experience working with sports, athletes, coaches, and officials. He specializes in human resources, workforce planning, officiating pathways and development, and managed the national officiating scholarships for more than 10 years. Ash and I have gotten to know each other over the past several years. He comes to the NASO Summit in the summer, and it's always great to talk officiating with you, and we're so glad to have you on with us.
Yeah, and welcome to the show, Ash, and thank you for joining us. Dana gave us a little bit of information about you and your background, but can you tell us more about your experience and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure can. Firstly, a huge thanks to both of you for the invitation. It's been pretty exciting, and even being in Indianapolis to record this session, it's even a little bit more exciting. I've got a pretty hectic trip stateside this year, and I'm really grateful for the invitation. Well, it's certainly been a journey. I began officiating Australian rules football about 35 years ago as a boundary umpire, but for the sake of the listeners and the viewers, I won't even try to explain what that is. I found my way into officiating. It's something to keep me fit and healthy while I was recovering from shoulder surgery, from a shoulder injury. But as many others found their way into officiating, it was a great way to earn a few bucks as a teenager. My real passion for development of sports officials came when I began working at the Australian Sports Commission and the Australian Institute of Sport back in about 2009. As part of my role there, I was overseeing a portfolio of sports in the education and training pathways, and I was charged for leading a program called the National Officiating Scholarships, a program that targeted the off-field development of sports officials. And this program really focused on the next best, so the pre-elite or the next best lot of officials that are coming through in their sports. This program, along with my respect for these individuals, growed from year to year, and I really enjoyed being in that officiating environment. And I have to say huge thanks to a guy named Peter Top, not Bill Top, Peter Top. And funnily, they do look very similar, and Bill and I have a good laugh about that. A great mate of mine and a mentor who's really guided me through the officiating world and the officiating environment. My philosophy after being involved with sports and various sports at various levels was that we administrators needed to start treating our officials like athletes. So just imagine what would happen if we provided our officials with off-field resources such as psychology, nutrition, recovery, mental toughness, well-being, mindset, leadership, values. You can see where I'm going here. A well-rounded official is a happy official, and a happy official is critical to the success of managing match days environments, attracting new officials, development and retention. The birth of the Officiating Collective came about 12 months after I actually left the Sports Commission. I was looking for something new. I was trying to get out of sport. I've been working in sport for about 25 years, but you know what sport's like. It kind of grabs you and it kind of drags you back in. I was doing some consultancy and working with the sports and the colleagues that I've known over those many, many years in the industry. And I couldn't stop thinking about how could I possibly build something that not only benefits 20, 25 officials a year, but hundreds and thousands of officials globally across all nations. I'll cancel that part and we can go back to it. Is that okay? I'll just go back to I couldn't stop thinking about how we could benefit or build something that could benefit not just 25 selected officials, but hundreds of thousands of officials all across the globe. But for all the good that we're doing and what we've built, I have to actually credit my wife, Sarah. Sarah and I are out for a hike one day. And I think we were about an hour and a half into it. And I think I was talking nonstop about what I wanted to do, what I wanted to build and how I could build it. So she stopped us. We had a look at each other and she's like, right, you've either got to do something about it or stop talking about it. So right there and then picked up the phone. I called my great mate, Steve Clark, Dana, who you've met, Steve, and he's my business partner. And we said, right, we're doing this. Let's do it. And yeah, we took a few months to build it and we launched in early 2021 and we never looked back.
That's incredible. And I can't believe it's already 2021 that was the launch date. It seems like it was, last week. It all just blurs together. So you've kind of talked a little bit about the birth of Officiating Collective and Steve's involvement. So aside from you and Steve, really, who's on that team, on Officiating Collective's team?
Yeah, we have a pretty small team. It's Steve and I have developed it. We're running the business, building the business, but we're trying to do this as a passion project. So we still both have full-time jobs. So we manage the Officiating Collective. We're building our business, managing our families, managing our personal lives as well. So when we look at sport, life, work balance, we really need to sit back and every now and then take some of our own advice and work on our well-beings and so forth. But we also have about 20, 25 specialists, so the best in their field who write our content. So we don't just sit down and Google how to be a better official, or we don't just search the internet scouring for resources for officials. Like, we have specialists in their fields like biomechanists, psychologists, health professionals, we've got business professionals, we've got mentors, we've got leaders. So anyone and anything that we need to build, we can always reach out to someone and build it, and these specialists are absolutely incredible. I've known many of them for many years, and we now have a few based in the USA, which is really, really exciting as well as we're growing our footprint.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you talked about, just being on a hike and just kind of thinking of what you wanted to accomplish. And I think innovation is that, right? It's an idea, and sometimes it's the most random thought, and very similar to Dana and I on this podcast, was our producer Ed, who just kind of listened to us talk about all the ideas and all, how we could improve officiating on the daily. And it was like, hey, why don't you start recording that and those conversations? And that's kind of how we are here. But how important is it that the officiating industry has innovators working to improve officiating? And what is unique about what Officiating Collective is providing for officials?
Yeah, Nate, I love this question. I think it's really important. So you think about the innovators that have come into the officiating space over the last 5 or 10 years. So like guys like Ref Reps, Running Ref Masters, Talk All Sports, which is a tech organisation in Australia, Umps Care and the OC. Well, the list goes on. I'd hate to say it, but without these sort of innovators, sports and sports officiating could possibly go backwards. The presence of innovators working to improve officiating is absolutely critical for the integrity and the evolution of sports. It's my belief, and I talk about this quite a lot, that innovators drive the development of better training methodologies, technological tools, psychological support systems, and these enable officials to perform at their highest level. So not only innovation, but I think it's great education and tools to deliver this type of education as well. Provides the officials' ability to package it all up together, and this directly impacts game quality, participant safety, spectator confidence in the fairness of the competition as well. So as you know, the officiating industry faces unique pressures They require continuous improvement. So increasing game speeds, games are getting faster, the athletes are getting stronger, and things are moving a lot quicker, even at the lower ages, the lower age groups. More sophisticated tactics. There's a lot of coaches out there now, and a lot of them would be quite proud to say that they actually teach to bend the rules or teach to flex the rules as much as possible. Intense public scrutiny and the mental demands of split-second decision makings, and these officials, these boys, girls, men, women who are out there doing amazing jobs, sometimes they need to do this for many, many hours on end. Innovation, identify these emerging challenges and we create solutions before they become systematic problems. And they also help address critical issues like official retention, mental health support, consistency across all levels of competition. So in essence, the innovators in officiating don't just improve the technical aspects of the sport, they enhance the sustainability of this entire sports ecosystem by ensuring that officiating can evolve alongside with the games and matches and events themselves. And where does the OC fit in? We're providing resources for these officials to cope with the pressures of sport, pressures of life. So really focusing in on what happens off the field, off the court, off the pool deck, and how do we support these officials. Sports do a really good job in coaching them and training them in match day environments, but who's looking after them once they've left the field, once they've left the court, the clubhouse? And this is where the OC really can step in and really support these officials.
And Ash, you kind of are leading into the next question, so I'm going to go ahead and go there. In looking at your website, the Officiating Collective website, and really from some of our past communications and conversations, Officiating Collective really does offer more than just those X's and O's of officiating. You've got modules about nutrition, conflict resolution, decision-making, and other items. So why do you feel it's so important to cover those topics? And what are some of the most popular modules that you all offer?
Yeah, great question. I think one of the best things that we don't do is create sport-specific content. We really focus on the individual and the learnings off field that ultimately supports their on-field development. Officials at all levels of sport face unprecedented scrutiny from multiple angles. Players, coaches, spectators, even social media can instantly analyse and criticise every decision now. Not forgetting the most important spectator, or probably the most challenging spectator, the parents. The demands officials are on. Sport really want officials who possess not just technical knowledge, but also emotional intelligence, communication skills, stress management techniques. So if we can support the development of these broader competencies, officials can make better decisions, smarter decisions under pressure and maintain their well-being and longevity in the profession. If I go back a little bit, so data from the 2017 officiating research survey that I conducted in Australia, probably a little bit long in the tooth at the moment, shows that up to, I think it was around 65% of officials generally drop out from the sport within the first 18 months. Or the 2-season mark. So if we manage to keep them past that point, and then the data shows that we've got them on our books for an average of 14 years post that. So that data's pretty crazy. So we really need to look at supporting these officials through their infancy of their officiating journey or their life cycle. Ultimately, officials who receive the holistic development become more than just rule enforcers, I believe. They become skilled professionals who can handle the integrity of competition and probably their own mental health as well. This approach addresses a true challenge of modern officiating, and it really helps solve the critical industry issues like burnout, retention. Just imagine keeping 50% of that 65% that leave every couple of years. We would never have to do a recruitment drive again. It would be just fantastic. So looking at our most popular resources, this was a question that came up this morning in a meeting. So I'm glad you did ask this, and I did a little bit of research into it. But our most popular resources were psychology, which is really interesting, mindfulness, well-being, and that was closely followed by recovery, physical performance, and physio. Really, really interesting. So when you bundle them up, it really tells a story on what's happening in the officiating world. So it's not necessarily nutrition, it's not necessarily values or integrity or leadership, but we're talking around things on how officials prepare, how they feel post-game, post-event, post-match. So if they're looking at their mental health and well-being, there's an issue there. There's something happening. But they're also looking at recovery and physiotherapy and biomechanical movements. So are we treating and training our officials the right way in the right set? maybe not. And that's certainly a challenge. And I'd love to challenge most sports in seeing what they're doing in that space.
That's a great point because we do see such a mental health crisis just generally, and that's not even just talking about officials. So as we talk in the NFHS office, we talk a lot about the mental wellness of student athletes, the mental wellness of coaches, but it's such a niche part of the sport industry with, with officials. So how do you really target that audience who definitely their stresses and demands within sport are so different than probably athletes and coaches just because of the role that they're in. So being able to have specialists who can really hone in on that is so important because, I think overall associations, organizations do a great job of providing, some rules, some mechanics, that sort of stuff. When it comes to taking care of what's going on between your ears, that's tough when you are scrutinized and when you get yelled at and you've got some things going on that are just, they're negative. How do you take care of that? So having a full module that takes, that looks at that and examines it and gives the official an opportunity to really do some mindset work, I think that's critically important.
Yeah. And 100% agree with that.
Yep. Sorry, Ash, go ahead.
No, no, no. I think that's just a bit of echo in here.
Okay, no, I just wanted to circle back because you came up with this idea kind of on a hike with your wife, but it had to have started prior to that. And was it something that you had been thinking about? Is it something that you were dealing with personally? Because we, like Dana said, we think about X's and O's all the time. As an official myself, I'm always thinking of how I can get better, as far as, between the lines. A big part of that is the physical aspect, which I think we all understand that that's part of it. But when it comes to like the mental aspect of the game, I don't know if I've put that kind of work in. And so for me, I guess my question is, what was it that triggered that, the idea to come up with all the other things that we don't think about?
Yeah, that would go back to my days at the Australian Sports Commission. So I had one role with the Sports Commission, and then I was actually seconded and got an opportunity to work within the Australian Institute of Sport. And it was around a program that was preparing pre-elite athletes for the elite environment. So it was like that gap. So you got your youth and your I suppose your developing competitions and leagues, and then there's a big jump that goes into your professional sport. And so we developed a program, and I ran on that program for a little while I was coincidentally was still working and managing the officiating space. And what I was learning in that preparation environment was how are we preparing athletes to take that next step? What do they get? What do they need? What do they listen to? How do they look after themselves? How do they eat? And that really got me thinking around what we we're doing in the space of the national officiating scholarships and going, imagine if we introduce some of this content and prepare these boys, girls, men, women. And we did some research on some of our officials in what sort of physical attributes they need, mental attributes they need. And University of Canberra are really, really great supporters of the work that we did. And we looked at the physical aspects of a football referee or soccer referee. And they were covering 7 to 12 to 15 kilometres. So you anywhere between really 9 and 12 miles in a game. And then we're like, wow, what sort of training do these guys do? And then what sort of training do they do around decision making while fatigued? And then we started putting that alongside some of the data that we were collecting from the athletes. And 9 times out of 10, the officials and the referees were doing more distance, making more decisions, having limited rest breaks, and so forth, and putting a lot of strain on themselves. And then we kind of looked at community as well, and how would it fit in the community and so forth. So yeah, when I stepped out, I was still working with a lot of the sports on a lot of programs, and there was so many questions around how can we make our officials better? How can we make them want to be there? But then also, how can we train them to deal with resilience? So, and we go back to that data set as well. And I think it was 28% of people who put up their hands to want to be umpires, judges, referee are aged between 13 and 18 years old. So their mindset's not as strong as someone who's got a little bit more life experience. So how do we help them and how do we protect them? So by giving them a whole bunch of resources around mindfulness, health and well-being, and brain fitness and all of this sort of stuff really help them get over those hurdles of, oh my God, that was a work of officiating. I don't want to do, I can't do this. I don't want to do it anymore. It gets them to that point going, you know what, it's not so bad. And next week they might sleep a little bit better the night before, so they might feel a little bit better. Or it might be a nutrition aspect, or it might be a tight calf aspect, or a body prep aspect. So we thought if we bundle all this stuff in together, it's a really holistic development of a person. So we want to develop great people, and we want great officials, but we also want great people who represent and are ambassadors for officiating itself.
You know, it seems to me like you're surrounded by a team of just people that are just, you know, mind blowing, right? And so, and it seems like your platform is consistently and constantly continuing to grow. Do you have any new innovations coming to the platform in the future, or something you would like to tell us about?
Yeah, it's I'm really grateful that you did ask that, because I just got goosebumps when you're asking it again. This is the exciting part. We're continually building resources, so we get so much feedback from our users and our members on the site, and we don't know everything. So the feedback that comes from our members is fantastic. It gives us new ideas and we can create new resources. But when we look at it, we've got a couple of new programs coming out, which is really exciting. But the ones that we do have is the officiating fundamentals training. So a training program for individuals to become an official. So what does it look like? Knowing yourself, understanding others, and managing the environment. Really basic. We have a training program in build at the moment. It's coaching women and girls. So this is written and built by our fantastic ambassadors, our specialists, and a whole bunch of female officials that we have as members. So it's written and built by females for females too. So it's really exciting in that space. And we do know that officiating has been a male-dominated industry for years and years and years. But last few years, females in officiating, it's just really exploded. So let's support them. Let's give them some resources, but then also let's give the people who are educating them and coaching them some resources in actually how to support the females and the women and girls. So that's really exciting. We have a mentors training program coming out that sports will be able to pick up and drop straight into their LMS. We've got an assessors training program. But the one I'm really excited about is our most recently launched one. So we call it the Official Advantage. So it's all around well-being and brain fitness and supporting the officials who are just going through a little bit of a tough time at the moment. So how do you get yourself back up? So this came off a discussion with Carissa and Dana. I think it was in Atlanta last year. And we said, what are the biggest challenges? Like, what are you guys at NFHS? What are you facing? What do we really need to look at? And well-being came up in that conversation about 8 times. And I think I was that excited. I got back to my hotel room that night and just started transcribing what a framework would look like and how could we pull this together. And that was, when was that? August last year. And we've launched it now. So it's really exciting.
You know, I think the one thing that caught my attention was just, I mean, the work that you're doing for female officials. And, you know, as a male that works women's basketball, you know, more and more officials are women. And sometimes I personally, or even, you know, don't know how to support. You don't know how, maybe even communicate. And so I think these are huge things that not only are going to help support female officials, but help, you know, male officials in how to navigate through that as well. And so I think that's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And one of our biggest supporters is a lady by the name of Donna Kelso. She works for the WTA. I think Donna has officiated more than 110 Grand Slams, and she's like my long lost auntie. I just love her, and we really, really bounce some ideas off each other in regards to developing females in the officiating industry. So not just in tennis, but across all industries. And how can we really support the females within our sport? Percent of the population that we're not really supporting. So let's create some pathways, let's create some programs, and let's create some entry opportunities for females to enter this amazing world of officiating and have them call it a place like home, like we all do.
Yeah, I love that, and I'm interested to see what that looks like, and definitely it's something that we'll want to see, because we're, you know, at the NFHS we've got a women's leadership team, and we're always really trying to find ways to support females in every facet of athletic administration, of coaching, of officiating, student athletes, because it is something that it is a male dominated field, and I've been at my whole life pretty much seeing the growth of it has been exciting, but knowing that there's always more work to do is also exciting. So I love hearing what y'all are doing and look forward to looking into that myself. So thank you for your efforts with that. That's outstanding. So obviously, Ash, you and I have gotten to know each other over the past several years at the NASO Summit. How important has it been for Officiating Collective to be involved in that event? And what has been your perception of the officiating community in the US as opposed to in Australia?
Yeah, as you know, I love the summit. I love what it represents, and pardon me. And to be honest, I'm a little bit jealous that the US has something like this, and we don't over in Australia, and I just don't think the market's there at this point of time. But we can certainly do some stuff in the future. I think the first summit that I attended was St. Louis, and I think that was about 2016.
Wow.
It was a long time ago,
Gosh,
and
that was a long time ago. Wow, I
it,
forgot you were at that one. That seems like
yeah,
was
that was
100
my
years
first
ago.
one. It was such an experience for an Australian who'd never travelled to the US, and I spent some time in New York and meeting with the major leagues, and then went to the summit itself, where I could catch up with the same people again in a different environment, in a different city, and it was fantastic. And when we built the Officiating Collective, like, I built a really good relationship with Barry and with Jim and a few of the others there at NASO. As soon as we built the Officiating Collective, I couldn't think of a better place to kind of launch I suppose, at the birth of the OC in the US than at the summit itself. And it was a must visit and we had to be there as part of the Officiating Collective. So the summit's so critical for like-minded people to get together to share not only the stories but innovations as well. And I've noticed over the last few years, there's more and more and more little companies and innovators just popping up, and it's really cool to walk the hall and have a conversation with different organisations, not as competitors, but more as a colleague. And we learn so much. There seems to be a growing international flavour to the summit as well, which I love, and the relationships that we've built. So we've gained so much from it. New partners, colleagues, some great lifelong friendships, which is really exciting. It helped us showcase what we offer, not only as a business, but as people. The comparison between the US and Australia, it's actually quite close. The data that I've been talking about a little bit from a few years back, both in Australia and the US, it was extremely similar. And we did a lot of work with the guys at NASO in regards to what the question set looked like. And we kind of really wanted to mirror as much as we could. So, and from what we came out of that, we're both facing the same challenges in officiating, development, retention, support, recognition, politics, communication. So to have so many innovators there sharing and having conversations, but also challenging each other as well, I think it's really important. We need to challenge each other. Like, you can't sit on a product and go, cool, this is my business, away we go. We want to be challenged. We want to be questioned, because if no one knows everything, so we all need to kind of push each other along a little bit, which is super exciting. So yes, we love the summit, and it's so great to be part of it for so many years in two aspects. One as a job, and now one as a business owner too. So, but to continue the relationships, it's super critical.
And you've said this a couple of times, Ash, and I think it's so important for people to understand there's a lot of people doing training and education for officials. And I think that there is a perception that we're all competing with each other. And you've said it a couple of times, and we had other people, ref masters were on the podcast, and they've all said the same thing, like there's room for all of us, and everybody's taking a different approach. And I think that the understanding that everybody learns a little bit differently. So the great part about it is there's a platform out there for everyone. There's something that will resonate with every official, regardless of how they learn, what their process is. And I just love the fact that you've now said it twice in this show about basically it's not a competition. We're working together. We're challenging each other. We're bouncing questions off of one another. And it's just leading to the improvement of overall officiating when we can stop putting ourselves in these silos and stop putting ourselves in these competitive situations and realize, you know what, we're all doing good work and there's space for all of us. And I think that the end result is a better product for officials, but ultimately a better game for everybody who participates. So I just love the fact that you did bring that up, because it's important for people to understand that.
Yeah,
And
that's right. And the officiating industry itself is so different to the coaching and the athletic industry, where if you come up with a new innovation in coaching, it's kind of like, oh, it's mine. No one's getting it. I'm not sharing it. Where officials and people in the world of officiating kind of wrap their arms around each other and go, oh yeah, this is what we did and this is how we did it. What do you want to know? Oh, here's a fact sheet. Here's a template. Off you go. So we're not really competing, and it just goes off the back of what you said there, where coaches and athletes are competing, where officials are supporting. So, and I think that's really, really important.
The really neat thing about being a part of this podcast is that Dana and I get to interview, new people each week and different people from all walks of life. And really the cool thing is that we're all doing the same thing. We're all different and we're all coming up with innovative ways to help officials. But man, it's really neat. And like Dana said, you said it, and we had an interview with Ref Masters and we talked about not competing. It's not a competition. I think, and it just says a lot about the officiating community, and definitely something that, most people don't understand. They don't understand how tight knit we are and how resourceful we are and how much we want to help each other. And so thanks for touching in on all of that. Just good stuff.
Absolutely.
So Ash, on the From A to Zebra podcast, we have a mission, and every week we try to push this mission, and that is to educate, elevate, and excite our listeners. What can you tell us about officiating specific to innovation that helps us to accomplish this mission?
Well, we're here to talk about innovation, and I think pre-show we had a bit of a conversation around this podcast and what does it mean, and the podcast itself really emphasizes innovation. I love tuning in every week, or I love waking up in the morning because we're on opposite time zones of the world and seeing new podcast from Dana or new message from Dana, and I'm like, oh, what's on now? Like, what can I listen to? Who are we about to listen to? And how does it bring us all together again? Off to our little worlds of sports specific, our business world, our life world, our families. But things like this brings us all back together. And I love the stories that are shared, the lessons that are learned are really, really critical. And so many of your amazing guests, from being far away and to see and hear officials from these sports that we've followed from afar for so many years, it's really quite inspiring, and thinking about what's next. And I'm sure we're not the only ones listening in with the mouse running on the wheel, and so something, Dana, I've told you many times, and every time I'm in a conversation, the little mouse just starts running and running and running, and I'm going, what's next, and what can we build, what can we create, and what can we share for the officiating industry? So by creating this podcast, yourself and Dana are driving us innovators in striving to create more resources and more content for the hundreds and thousands of officials across the globe. And for that, we thank you. And I'm sure I'm not the only one in saying that.
Gosh, thank you, Ash.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, and it's so much fun. Dana and I just actually had a conversation, and then this is real talk to our listeners. Is sometimes we're not sure if our mission and our vision is being heard, and you kind of just it's reassuring, and it's helpful for us to know that what, there is somebody out there listening, whether it's one person or 100,000 people, and and that's the goal. The idea is to try to spark an idea in somebody so that they can take that information and move on and grow, one as an official, or grow their local associations or their local groups. And so good stuff. I know, try to promote, and it's not really in the question, but how can somebody get involved, or how do they use the platform?
Yeah, so just visit the website, www.officiatingcollective.com. My contact details are on there. There's an information page, but yeah, hit the more info page, and I can send you out whatever you need. Like we've got so many different opportunities in the way that OC works, and how we can partner with sports, from supporting programs, writing content, strategic plans, innovation, you name it, we can do it, which is really cool. Like, we've got such a wide background of skill sets within the OC. But yeah, the memberships, you can buy your memberships, organizational memberships, or just give us a yell if you're having a problem somewhere, and we can probably help you in some way, shape, or form. So yeah,
and I was just going to ask that because I was just going to ask that because as you're speaking, I'm thinking, man, how can we get this in local group associations, especially for that 1 to 3 year official that's just getting started and in a group setting and where they actually have to take these modules and these courses to, I just think it would be huge. And so if you're a state association or you are a group leader, an assigner, or a coordinator, I mean, look into it. I think that, in fact, as soon as we get off this thing, I have a couple calls to make to see, how we can get this involved in some of the local association stuff, because I just think it's huge.
Yeah, well, thanks, Nate. I really appreciate those words. And from what we know and the research that I've done, I've been all over the world. Like last year, I spent some time in Europe and in Dubai and Singapore and really having these conversations. Or if there's anything else, but there's nothing else like this. And I'm really, really quite surprised that no one's really looked at that kind of area of the official. There's heaps of assigning platforms. There's heaps of other different programs, personal drive and person development. So not only creating great officials, but to create great people, the skills are so transferable. And like you said, Nate, the 1 to 3 years officials that come in and to be able to have access to content like this, and like the cost of it's irrelevant. It doesn't even cost as much as a dinner anymore. So, and then it's 12 months subscription worth of content, which is ever growing. So it's pretty fantastic, even if I do say so myself. But yeah,
You should say that.
We're really proud of what we've built.
And Ash, the platform is amazing. And on behalf of somebody who's worked a career in officiating, thank you for what you're doing, because you're making a difference. And the fact that, you've got this international presence, I'm laughing because you're talking about going to like Dubai. I'm like, well, I went to Chicago. Like our worlds are a little different, but I think that that's incredible where you are, where you're going, the people you're talking to, and really the conversations that you're starting, because I think that sometimes a part of innovation we don't think about enough is the fact that it's that conversation starting. And that's how those ideas are born. And I think that being able to see you at the summit every year since St. Louis, which I'm still blown away that was your first one, having those conversations and being able to see you interact with people from other entities and organizations and companies, and understanding that something that you say to them may change the direction of what they're doing, and vice versa, something that they say to you. And I do love the fact that the officiating community is so willing to idea share, and like all of us are like, steal it. It's fine. Like take it and run with it. If it's going to help you, we don't like reinventing the wheel, but let's do things that we can take and build on and fulfill the idiosyncrasies of our various organizations and our various countries and everything else. So I think that you hit on some really important points, but on behalf of Nate and I and officials and this podcast, thank you for what you're doing and for taking what you're doing in a different direction than probably a lot of people would envision it. So it is innovative, and we appreciate you for that. But really, Ash Synnott, thank you so much. Officiating Collective, and it's officiatingcollective.com if you're interested in checking it out. That's their website, and we'll make sure that we include that in our posts and everything. But Ash, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. It's weird that we're in the same time zone for a change, because I know that you and I, when we email each other, you're getting my email at like 2 a.m. and I'm getting yours at 2 a.m. because we're 14 hours apart or whatever. Like, it's just our time zone, and I can't even do the math. I'm like, I don't know what time it is, but I need to ask him something, so I'm emailing him now. And then I get a response when you wake up. So it's fine. But thank you for everything that you do, and looking forward to seeing you, because we get to actually see each other here in Indianapolis, and absolutely looking forward to that conversation. So we appreciate your time on the podcast and for everything that you do.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, and you two guys keep up the hard work, and it's certainly paying off and reaching many, many people. So well done.
Thank you.
Hey, Ash, thank you. And, looking forward to meeting you in person here at this year's summit. And so and that'll be great. Thank you for joining us let me do that again. Thank you for joining us on the From A to Zebra podcast. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and X for more information about the show. See you next time.
Stop the recording.
Be sure to hit that like button, follow, subscribe, and also catch From A to Zebra on Instagram at from_A_2_zebra, Facebook From A to Zebra podcast, and on X at From A to Zebra.